All right, let's get into a book that is, without a doubt, one of the most fascinating and, let's just say it, weirdest books you could ever pick up. We're talking about Mary Roach's stiff The Curious Lives of Human Cadavers.
It's a question everyone asks at some point, right? But the answer is so much stranger than you'd think. It's not always just about a quiet burial. For some, death is just the start of a brand new, and pretty incredible, career.
And boom, that quote from the book just throws you right into the deep end. It immediately tells you that our bodies, long after we're gone, can serve some seriously intense but vital purposes. We're talking way beyond a simple anatomy lesson here. This is about saving lives.
Which really brings us to the core idea of this whole explainer, thinking of the dead as these incredible unsung heroes.
It's a wild concept to wrap your head around, that our final contribution could be our most important one. You know, from training the next generation of surgeons to making our cars safer, these bodies have some amazing stories. So let's start at the beginning, with their very first job.
The classic role, the one you probably think of first, is the cadaver as a teacher. For hundreds of years, the dead have been the silent professors for doctors and surgeons, but the history behind it is a lot grimmer than you might think.
For the longest time, the only way a surgeon could truly understand the ridiculously complex machine that is the human body was, well, to open one up and look inside. This was the absolute bedrock of all modern medicine.
And just look at this contrast, it's absolutely night and day. Back in the 19th century, surgery was just brutal. Can you imagine? No anesthesia, patients literally tied down, and the surgeons, well, they were often learning as they went. The only way we got from that to the life-saving procedures we have today was through one thing, a deep, hands-on knowledge of anatomy.
So the big question is, where did they get all those bodies? There was a huge demand and almost no legal supply. And that led to a really grim business, body snatching. Here's the crazy detail. For a while, it wasn't even technically illegal to steal the body itself, because laws only covered stealing property like the coffin or the clothes.
This diary entry, wow, it gives you this chillingly normal peek into their world. It was just another day at the office. They'd go out, dig up a grave, and get the job done. And this quote from the famous surgeon Sir Astley Cooper just perfectly sums up the awful dilemma they were in. He hated body snatching, but he also knew he needed the bodies. The logic was cold, but you can't really argue with it. It's better to practice on the dead than to make a fatal mistake on a living person. So yeah, the uncomfortable truth is that modern surgery was pretty much built on a foundation of grave robbing.
Okay, so that grim history eventually leads us to the modern day, where cadavers take on what's gotta be their toughest role yet, the test subject. This is where the dead are literally on the front lines, helping to prevent injuries to the living.
I mean, think about it. How do you figure out the exact amount of force it takes to shatter a human bone in a car wreck? You can't exactly ask for volunteers for that experiment, right? You need a stand-in that reacts just like a living human body would.
And here's the kind of critical data they get. Researchers figured out it takes about 1,400 pounds of force to cause a major knee injury. That's a number car engineers can take and use to design dashboards that will crumple before your knee does. That's life-saving stuff.
And before cadavers became the standard for this research, the alternatives were, well, pretty out there. I mean, this quote sounds like something from a bizarre cartoon. Chimps on rocket sleds, bears on impact swings. It was ethically messy, and the results weren't even that good. Today, it's a very precise science. A cadaver gets an anonymous ID, something like UM006. They're put in these leotards, which sounds strange, but it's just to hold all the sensors and instruments. Then they're subjected to very specific controlled impacts. And the data they get from that, that's what gave us things like side airbags, which save thousands of lives every single year.
But it's not just about cars. This question, which Mary Roach asks in the book, really gets to the core of how uncomfortable this work can be. I mean, it is not a job for the faint of heart, but the people who do it believe they're protecting the living. And that work extends to protecting soldiers and police officers too. They use cadavers to test things like non-lethal bullets to make sure they really are safe, and to design better boots that can protect soldiers from landmines. In all of these really intense scenarios, the mission is always the same: using the dead to keep the living safe.
So, after a posthumous career as a teacher and a test subject, what's the final act? Well, this part is all about what happens when our bodies are simply allowed to go back to nature.
You know, the process of natural decay is actually a biological marvel. First, the bacteria in our own gut, with nothing left to do, start to digest our body from the inside out. That creates gas, which causes the body to bloat. Then insects and other microbes show up and do the rest, breaking everything down and returning all those nutrients right back into the ecosystem.
And this totally natural process has inspired a whole new way of thinking. Instead of fighting decay with chemicals or using up a ton of energy for cremation, a new movement is asking, what if we embraced it? What if our end could actually be a new beginning for the planet?
This quote from Suzanne Wieg-Mossack, who's a pioneer in human composting, just captures the whole idea perfectly. The process basically speeds up natural decomposition, turning a body into healthy, nutrient-rich soil within a few weeks. It's about seeing death not as just an end, but as a transformation, a chance to literally give back to the earth.
Which, at the end of the day, leaves us with a pretty profound question to ponder. We spend our lives thinking about the legacy we'll leave behind with our work or our families, but this book makes you think about a totally different kind of legacy, the final, generous act our bodies themselves can perform.
This explainer has all been based on the wonderfully curious and thought-provoking book by Mary Roach. It's a powerful reminder that even after we're gone, there's still life, there's still purpose, and a very strange but real kind of heroism.